All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to take their brands to the next level. I am your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me the man himself, Mr. Bobby Stealth. And today we're going to get into it. Put it in the chat. Let us know where you're listening from. And then also, just let us know what the energy is like. All right, so Bobby, what's up?
I'm ready to get straight to it today, Junior. I was in the gym today this morning, and it was one of those days where it's like, whew, I was fighting the weights. The weights had to come see me today. They had to come see me. That's something we say in in the States.
Yes, sir. Well, man, I'm ready. I'm always ready, Bobby. I'm always ready. So guys, we're gonna get right into the topic. I'm gonna let Bobby introduce it, but quick shout out goes to Bradley, Tia, and also Mr. Joel Smith. Welcome, welcome.
Man. So the topic today, guys, is redefining failure. Everybody experiences it, right? Everybody experiences it. I put up a post yesterday that said, I fail because I try. I succeed because I persist. And I think that's pretty true, pretty profound even. If you're not trying new things, then you're probably not failing. You're probably doing really well, right? But the moment you get out there and you say, I'm gonna build a business, or I'm gonna do something new to generate more revenue, or I'm going to fire someone and see how this works. I'm gonna leave a system that was working for something that I don't know if it will work, but you're trying something new. And I think that a lot of times we can let other people's definitions of failure make us feel like we failed. For example, you leave the workforce, you're making $100,000 a year, say $200,000 a year. You leave the workforce. Someone says, "Man, you're not making a lot of money. Like, man, you went from making $200,000 a year to $60,000 a year. Like, what's up with that? How are you winning now?" Their definition of failure cannot be your definition of failure if you're going to be successful in business. What I have found as I open up this conversation and turn it over to Junior is that failure is best looked at as a milestone. As a milestone. So if you set goals, a great goal, I think, is one that you strive toward but do not attain. And the closer you get to attaining the goal, push the goal out. So if you are saying, I want to make $10,000 a month, and you're starting out at like $3,000 a month, soon as you get to 7K a month, push it out to 15K. Never reach the goal, but always strive toward it. So you're constantly failing, but your failures are milestones. What do you think about this, Junior?
Hmm. One of my mentors told me that as a man, you never fail. Now I'm gonna expand it to women as well. But that's the way he said it to me. He said, as a man, you never fail. So men, we win, we draw. We either is win or draw. We never lose, we never fail, because we always learn. Okay, so it's either win or draw. It's either win or learn. You win, you draw, or you learn. And there's never lose. So the idea of failure is not the opposite of success. It's just part of success. Like if you're on the journey, you will be privileged enough to fail if you end up actually doing something. If you're not quote unquote failing, which I don't really believe in, so to speak, I don't believe in failure in that way, then I mean you will be privileged to learn a lesson. If you're not learning, it means you're just not doing anything. So failure, in the way that most people understand it, is not the opposite of success. Failure is actually part of success. There's no success without quote unquote failure. And I'm using quotes because I don't interpret it as a failure. I interpret it as data. And I've said this before. If I'm doing something and it doesn't work, I just see it as data. So the data saying that it didn't work, it means that I need to change something. That's the way I see it. So my thoughts on that are, you should absolutely not look to fail, but just look at your failure as part of the journey. Mark Zuckerberg said something. He said, in the process of building Facebook, his philosophy was to move fast and to break things. So he was like, how can we move quickly and how can we break things? Because the more things we break, the quicker we get to our destination. That was literally his philosophy. So it's not like he knew what to do. He was just breaking things in the process of sort of figuring it out. And if you have that the type of mindset, then you see failure as a privilege and you see failure as data. Failure is like, okay, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? Here's what I do now. Fix it. That's literally it. So that's sort of my interpretation of that.
Mm. You know, something I find interesting about failure and quote unquote failure, right? And different things is that one of the biggest forms of failure is unmet expectations. So imagine if a person was shooting basketball and a success would be getting the ball in the hoop, and then a failure would be not getting the ball in the hoop. Most people expect for business to go differently than it does. And when they get into business, they feel like they're failing. And it's really not a matter of doing the right things, learning and growing from the data. It's a matter of their expectations not being properly managed. And I think that this is pretty profound because it leads to adaptability. If you can't adapt and adjust to what is, I think it was Gandhi who said, it was either Gandhi or Buddha, one of them. They said, man's cause of suffering is their inability to accept things for what they are and their persistence in wanting them to be something else. But like he was pretty much saying, like when we refuse to accept things for what they are, it's like that's the root cause of suffering. So it's an expectation that just is not true. Like it's not true, and you're in denial about it. You're in self delusion. And I love this perspective because that's what business is about sometimes. Business is about doing something, expecting it to go one way, watching it go the complete opposite of what you expected, and being adaptable and creative enough to chart a new course in mid stride to still achieve the desired end goal as the end goal continues to shift and shake. I think that's pretty interesting. So I'd love to hear from you, Junior. As you've been building your business and as you've been becoming a more seasoned entrepreneur, how many times has the target shifted on you? Like, did you always say, I wanted to build a marketing company in St. Lucia? Or was it, I just want to be a copywriter? Or was it, I just want to make money for myself? Like, how many times did the target change? And as it changed, did you ever feel like, man, this didn't go the way I thought it would and had to figure it out?
Yeah, man, all the time. It's just the nature of the thing. I mean, the target is always changing. The target is always changing because you're always getting new data. You're always getting like feedback. It's like a continuous feedback loop. Okay, so the target is always, let me say that in a different way. The target is not changing, the target is moving. That I think that's a more precise way to say it. So you could have a target, right? Just like let's say like you were in the military. So let's say you're focused on a target. If the target is moving, you have to sort of, move your stuff with it, right?
That's
So
right.
it's the same target. It's just that the target, maybe you thought the target was over there. Turns out the target is actually over there. So you have to sort of shift. And if it's changing, you shift, you shift, you shift until you get the target. So the target is always moving, but not necessarily changing. If that makes sense. The target, and interestingly enough, I was actually listening to a video literally a couple minutes ago, by Alex Hormozy. I was just playing it, while I was getting ready. And he was talking about the concept of the lady in the red dress. So the
Mhm.
concept of the lady in the red dress is like those things that capture your attention, but you end up like falling into the same trap. If that makes sense. So you keep falling for the same mistakes or doing the same errors over and over again, only to find out that it's an error that you've repeated in the past.
Mhm.
But if you don't document the error appears in a different way. So typical example, we could use the example of relationships. A lot of people, they have problem with relationships is because they keep dating the same kind of person, right? And they keep finding themselves in the same mess over and over and over again. Is the person new? Yes, the person is new, but the situation is still the same. It's still the lady in the red dress. It's just that instead of the red dress, now she has a nice silky black one, or now she has a maroon one, or now she has a different color, or now she's wearing something else. If you cannot recognize like literally the same mistake in different clothing, you end up making the same mistake. Now, equally, on the opposite end, the goal now can always wear quote unquote different dresses. So when you ask me a question like, did you always wanted to create a marketing company? Did you always want to create, become a copywriter? Did you always wanted to do this and do that? Yes, it was the same goal, just wearing different dresses. It was the same lady. It's the same lady, just wearing different dresses, right? And you have to recognize that the goal has not changed. It's just moving and it's just appearing in a different way. Does that make sense, Bobby? So
It does.
I've always had the same goal, but as I've gained more experience, I realized that the goal may not have looked the way that I thought it looked. Because obviously I didn't know the things that I know now. So it's
You
the
know,
same goal, just appearing in different ways.
I want to ask the audience something. Am I getting an echo, Junior? You good?
I'm good. I don't know if the audience is hearing an echo, but I'm good.
All right. So, guys, I want you all to put in the chat what it is that the goal is and when has the goal last changed. So, what we're looking for is what was the original goal and has that goal changed? So, by you putting this in the chat, what we're going to be able to do is see if we've ever seen that shift before and break out the patterns for you. I remember Tony Robbins talking about one of the most important skills you can have is pattern recognition. And many of the target shifts are nothing more than patterns, nothing more than patterns. So first thing that you'll see is sales. Sales will be the target, and then the target will move to systems. It's like, okay, we got the sales down. Now we need systems. And then systems will start working well. And once you got sales and systems working well, the target will move to strategy. Okay, now we need a strategy for optimizing the system. And then once you've optimized the system, it goes right back to sales. So that's a pattern that is prevalent in business. So put your shifting targets in the comment section and we can talk about them. But when we come back from the break, what we're going to be diving deeper into is not so much the failure itself, but the mindset that you need to have to always win. So Les Brown said something, and I'll end with this. It's not over until I win.
I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. That's Shaan Ride East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions. and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes.
All right, guys. So we are back. Put it in the chat. Let us know if you've learned something so far today. That simple concept that I just discussed, like that alone could take you a long way.
Yeah.
That alone, because literally it's a feedback loop, right? So all entrepreneurs, and you know what too? Let me just say this. In that same video that I just talked about, the lady in the red dress, Hamosi said that he did something that I find is so important, which is he documented all of his mistakes. So he said that he created like this email thread that he would send emails to himself, literally documenting the mistake that he made and why. So why did the mistake happen? And then what did he do to fix the mistake? And then like a year from now, 2 years from now, he literally had all of the content, right? The content that he's putting out, because he was able to understand the nuances of why he was able to solve that mistake. Okay, why he was able to solve that and why he was able to get the result, and how he was able to do like the exact steps that he took to be able to do that. Right. So being able to document the mistakes, but also document the successes. So it said, Bobby, that a wise man learns from the mistake of others, right? But it's also said that the wisest man not only learns from the mistakes of others, but he also learns from his success. So we try to learn from mistakes. We don't try to learn from success. So document your success, document the mistakes so you could repeat successful actions and avoid actions that don't give you what you want.
It's crucial. It's crucial because everybody has this desire to be successful, I would assume, right? So if you have a desire to be successful, you also know that there are certain actions you need to take in order to achieve your goals. And I think if we don't have a persistent mindset about knocking things out aggressively and simply, there's a point that I want to make, and it's very subtle though. So give me a second, you all. So when you're setting goals, you want to simply execute massive action at the point of highest leverage. That's how you get results. Is taking massive action at the point of highest leverage. Now, here's the thing about massive action. If you take massive action in the wrong direction, you get there faster. And that's something I think many entrepreneurs have in common. Many successful entrepreneurs and business owners take massive action despite knowing what the exact outcome is going to be, but they have faith in the direction that they're going. And the sooner they arrive, the sooner they know if they did right or wrong. And most people try to take the slow route, the scenic route to success. That means they're looking at all the scenery, they're going slow, and they're doing all these things. I heard a guy say once, you can't get rich slow. He said you can't get rich slow. He was pretty much saying that the way money works and the way it accumulates is it flows, it moves. And the faster you can move money, the faster you can accumulate wealth. The slower your money moves, if you're only getting money on the 1st and the 15th, and you're only saving 10% of that, and then you're only making large investments and purchases once every 3 to 5 years, you're probably not going to get rich. You may have a nest egg, you may have something that you can feel confident in and proud of, but as far as millions of dollars and various assets that you can deploy at your disposal to impact the world at a large scale, like that doesn't happen slow. And that's where I think we have to do what Junior said, which is get that word failure out of the mind. Win, draw, or learn. Because if I take massive action in the wrong direction, what am I going to do? I'm going to learn faster. Because I took massive action, I failed fast and I failed hard. A lot of people, I think, are just afraid of failing hard. And it doesn't feel good. I'm going to be honest with you. Like if you are hitting it, like anybody has ever had a PR, like a personal record or a personal best, and like you're lifting and then like your muscle gives out, like it If it collapses on you, like that hurts, and that's failure. Or you'll fall under the weight. And you're like, dang. But guess what? You know what your new max is. And once you know what your new max is, what else can you do? You can train right up under that max. You keep hitting it. You keep hitting it until that max becomes the floor. And then you have a new, say, threshold, a new platform. So what do you think you're as far as maxing out? You know, because now we're talking about massive action. We're talking about not having all the facts, having faith, belief, and ability, and taking that and just taking massive action.
Yeah. So what I think about that, I believe in thinking. I believe in strategy. My approach is to think and then act. To think quickly. Let me say that. Think quickly, then act. I don't believe in, just, massive action, yes, but I believe in, to some degree, thinking. I think thinking saves you a lot of time. Thinking saves you a lot of time. And you just have to get to a point where good enough is good enough and just take action. Like you will never know everything. It's not possible for you to know everything, but analyze what you know and use that to just take action as quickly as humanly possible. That's the way I sort of think about it. And I mean that's what has worked for me. Having the I think it is emotional intelligence to know when I should be acting quickly and also when I should be acting a little bit slower. Because Bobby, there are times where you need to not act as fast.
I
So
agree.
check this out. Another one of my mentors used to say, and you could write this down, almost never. So almost never and never always. Almost never and never always. Meaning that you never always have to do something. So massive action, yes, but it's almost never, okay, but never always. So there's always like that small degree or that 1% of time that you don't need to take massive action. You actually need to just relax and just observe and be strategic. And strategy is all about the time you do things. Does that make sense? So you cannot do step number 5 in step number 1. Or you shouldn't, I should say that. You shouldn't do step number 5 in step number 1. You can, and if you're all about massive action, you may, okay? But is it necessarily the best thing? Maybe, maybe not. So my thing is think quickly. Like don't spend a whole day thinking. Think quickly, analyze what you have, where you're at, and then once you make a decision, just go at it with massive action, whether it's right or wrong. So if it's the wrong decision, do what you can to make it the right decision. And if you made the right decision, then, congratulations to you.
That's right. That's right. And Walter D. Waddle said something, and he talks about, and I'm going to answer your question, Joel, and I'm going to address Tia as well. But Walter D. Waddle said, "You're perfect." He pretty much said you're perfect. He says that the more you take action with the right mind frame of wisdom, and his definition of wisdom is pretty much knowing the best ends to aim toward. Like if you know what you're moving toward and you believe that what you're moving toward is right and you trust your instincts in the process, you will get better at trusting your instincts. And the more you trust those instincts, he says that it gets to a point where you are almost infallible, like you always make the right decision. Now, granted, that's obviously a bit hard to believe for most, but if you could wrap your head around it, if you could wrap your head around being perfect, then you are. You are. Because think about it this way. Nothing is perfect because no human is perfect because we can always improve. But if you are perfect in that moment, meaning you did the best that you could do with the information you had and you continue to strive, you live a life of almost present perfection. And that's kind of what he was trying to get to the idea of. The idea was that you're connected to the one intelligence. And if you operate in pure connection and alignment with that one intelligence, then you can never make a bad decision. And what appears to be a bad decision is simply a decision that hasn't finished working itself out. And that I thought was pretty profound. So to go back to Joel's question, shifting target speed of relevance, rapidly growing and producing new thoughts. So that question was, what was your first target when starting in business or getting started, and what is that target today? So for most of us, the target was having more time. Now the target is making more money. So what is the pattern? The pattern here is that we just went from a 9 to 5, which was a system that was already built and developed and had positive cash flow, to a entrepreneurial market that has no system established and no cash flow. So we're trading the time that we thought we were going to get from not having a job for the sales that we need in order to build the system, in order to buy the time. So the target moved. The original target was, I want more time with my family. But once you took the leap into entrepreneurship, you realize that you no longer have a business system. You no longer have cash flow, and the first and 15th went away. So once that happened, the target had to move again, because the target is no more free time, it's more sales. And in order to get more sales, you've got to trade the time. So you're finding yourself with that shifting target. However, the target is still the same, to spend more time, or the goal rather, is still the same. Spend more time with the family, but you're realizing that the order in which you have to do things in order to achieve that reality are unfolding themselves. The order, the sequence begins to unfold itself. So those are just different things. If you can put out what your original goal was and what the new goal is now, our goal is going to be to help show you why that goal shifted to where it is, because it's probably done the same thing to us. Navigate. But before I turn it back over to Junior, here's what Tia was saying. First goal was to create supplemental income. Second goal was to create a program to help people like me. Present goal is to impact one individual at a time to become better, beginning with me as the example of what is possible if one believes in their power within. Super, super powerful. So as we can see, goal one was product focus, like many people do. Many people are like, I'm going to build this product. What do they say? Build it and they will come? No, they won't. No, they won't. You got to market that thing, but there's nothing to market yet until she starts figuring out herself. So let's see what she did. She went from goal one, which was focused on the product, to goal two, which was create a program to help people like me. So now she started to integrate herself. So now she's like, okay, just selling these supplements isn't really deep enough. So what does the next goal need to be? Okay, I need to incorporate myself into the solution so that it's an authentic solution that I can market. Now what's the present goal? The present goal is to impact one individual at a time to become better, beginning with me as the example of what is possible if one believes in their own, with their power within. That's almost a mission statement. That's almost a mission statement. And it's pretty much saying impact one person at a time by becoming the best version of myself. And that's exactly what goals do. They shift and they go, they just ebb and flow. And if you stay with it and you follow the progression, you'll find yourself right back at square one, but more educated and a much more equipped to execute. So what are some of your thoughts, Junior, on where we're going, unless you wanted to go to a break?
Yeah, I could share my thoughts quickly and then we go to a break. I like the fact that Tia said starting with herself, because I believe in being a contender, not a pretender. I believe in being a contender. I believe that you have to start with yourself. Like if your stuff is so good, you should be able to do it for you. You should be able to do it for you. And also from a marketing perspective, being able to achieve that transformation, there's actually a very technical aspect to it that I'm not going to get into right now. But being able to achieve that transformation and most importantly, portray that or market or advertise that is one of the keys that will get people to say yes to your program. So being able to start with yourself is the absolute key to be able to take your leadership and also your business to the next level as far as marketing, branding, and also sales is concerned. So that's actually very smart. That's very smart. That's very mission oriented. So great job, Tia. We're looking forward to hearing more about that progress. All right, guys. So we're gonna go to a quick break. Very, very quick. Stay tuned. We'll be back in like 60 seconds. See you soon.
There's slow growth and then there's scale. There's incremental growth and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 plus 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 plus 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 plus 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 plus 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence, add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow.
All right, so we are back and we're talking about reframing failure. So if you're now tuning in, go ahead and put your flames in the comments. If you've been learning something from today's session, put those flames as well. And guys, by the way, our only ask, this is free. Our only ask is if you find value from this particular podcast, just share it with like one other person who you know who could benefit. All right, so Bobby, let's get into it. Where were we? I mean, I see so many comments coming up. We're talking about shifting targets. We're talking about rapid growth. We're talking about people building their brands. So
Yeah.
where should we go from here, man? I mean, there's so many places that we can take it.
Yeah, you know, one of the places that I think we should go is the recovery from a bad decision. And I want to preface this by saying I personally do not believe there are any bad decisions that are not premeditated. So the only bad decisions, in my opinion, are decisions that are premeditated with ill intent. Like if you know you shouldn't do something and you do it anyway, and you don't, and you suffer the consequences, like that's a bad decision, right? But if you make a decision and it simply work out the way you thought it, it's not a bad decision in my book. If you did something and you made progress in the present, but it cost you something in the future, not a bad decision in my book. Not everybody agrees with this, and that's okay. But what I would say is that one of the biggest things that I see entrepreneurs struggle with is recovering from what they have determined as a bad decision. For example, I cannot tell you how many people I've gotten on a call with. They love the product. They love what we're doing. They need the product. They're ready to buy the product, but they're traumatized from a past experience. Traumatized from a past experience. They'll say things like, the last time I spent this kind of money, I didn't get anything. They'll say something like, man, are you sure? Is there any guarantee? What? A guarantee? This is entrepreneurship. They will ask me, can I guarantee their success? I'm like, no, I can't. I can't. But what I can guarantee you is that it has worked for others. And if you use it as it is designed, the likelihood of it working for you is 99.999 in many cases, right? But they're traumatized. And what I think is a very important skill for entrepreneurs to have is forgiveness. And I'm not talking about the forgiveness of others, so to speak. You want to have that too, but more so the forgiveness of self. Is like, man, I should have known better. But I didn't know better. And then taking the Alex Hormozy approach. You don't have to do it like he did it, but there should be, in my opinion, a process of repentance. Now, repentance simply means that you're turning away from the old way of doing things. You found that you have failed at something. You missed the mark. You have sinned against your business, sinned against oneself. You're like, okay, we've got to do something different. You document this and you say, we're not going to do this. You forgive yourself for the error. Many entrepreneurs I encounter are struggling with self-forgiveness, with forgiving themselves for trying, for they're struggling to forgive themselves for being who they have to become. Now that's so, but I want you to pay attention. They're struggling to forgive themselves for who they have to become. See, the person that's struggling to forgive them is the version of them that they are. But the person that they have to become could care less about how the present version of them feels. I think it was Myron Golden who said, building a successful business isn't hard. Becoming the person who can do it is the challenge. So I just wanted to put that conversation piece out there because now we're starting to deal with the realities of the psychology of business, the internal turmoil and fighting between the version of you that you are and the person that you're becoming and the various dissonances that arise on your journey.
Yeah, this is a really good topic. I love what Joel said, and I love Bradley's response. So I'm going to read it, and then I'll explain why I love it. So Joel says, determining the product and launching, feeling of playing catch up, concerning myself with the competition instead of focusing on my goals and products. And then Bradley said, Joel, you are not alone. Why do I love this? The reason I love this is because, Bobby, when I go through some of my own like internal challenges, right? Like the other day, I was on a call with one of my coaches, and I came to the call to get an answer to a specific question. So I showed up on the call because I wanted to get a specific answer to a very specific question based on a very specific experience that I was trying to understand. And what happened was, while I listened to him speak, I realized that I'm special. Everybody's special. So Joel, Bradley, I see Lawana in the chat, Tia, like Michelle, like you're all special, but your experience is not unique. Does that make sense? So when he spoke about his experience, without me actually even asking the question, I realized that hey, this guy has been through this before. If he's been through it before, and then this one's also been through it before, then it means that I'm not necessarily doing anything wrong. I'm just in that part of the journey. Does that make sense? So when Joel says determining the product and launching, Joel, everybody goes through that feeling of playing catch up and concerning myself with the competition instead of focusing on my goals and products. Everybody goes through that. So when you're going through it alone, it feels like it's special and like it's unique to you. But in reality, just like Bradley said, you're not alone. Now, for me, knowing that I'm not alone, like I'm not the only person that's going through this, or I'm not the only person that has gone through this stage, it lets me know that this is like literally just a stage. This is literally just a stage. Okay. And if it's just a stage and I'm going through it, it means that I'm actually on the right path. So Joel, you're actually on the right path. Even if internally it may not feel that way, the fact that every entrepreneur that has gone before you has gone through the very same thing, it means that you're actually on the right path. You just don't know it yet. So the future Joel will look back on the current version of yourself and maybe somebody else that you may be mentoring who may be having the same problem, and you'll be able to tell them that this is normal. Just relax. This is normal. I see it all the time when it comes to, launching brands and stuff like that. People will say to me, well, I'm going through this, I'm going through that, I don't understand this, I don't understand that. And tonight they're like freaking out. And I have to tell them, like, just relax. Like, this is not, just so you know, like everybody that I talk to goes through the exact same thing. Even if to you, your experience feels different and unique, I guarantee you, you're literally going through the same cycle that people before you have already gone through and surpassed, and you will do the same thing. Like, you will overcome it. You just don't know it yet. So that's sort of what puts me at ease. The fact that other people have gone through the experience and I can leverage like their experience and their lessons, it allows me to think clearly and also make the right decision based on the experience that I'm having, because the experience is unique to my journey, but on the grand scheme of things, it's actually very common. And the fact that it's common is a good thing because it means I'm actually on the right path.
You know, I'm gonna be honest with you, Jim. I was working out today, and I was just like, how much more can I take? I had to ask myself that. How much more can I take? And I put some more weight on the bar. And I did some more reps. I was like, how much more can I take? And the reason I'm sharing this with you guys is because Junior is 100% right, in my opinion. It's a stage. But the thing is, most people, man, in my experience, stop right before the goal line. Like, they'll go 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. They'll be at like 4 years and 8 months. They got 4 months left before the breakthrough, and they break down. And it's just like, you gotta find it in yourself to keep going some way, somehow. And one of the best ways I found to do that is to put yourself in that position every day, such as working out. So for me, I also fast throughout the day, and like, I don't eat my first meal normally until well into the evening. So it's like, as the clock is ticking down, I'm getting hungrier and hungrier. What am I telling myself? How much more can I take? How many more minutes? How many more hours? And then eventually my mind will go off of it, and then my mind will come back to it. When I'm repping and my arms are burning and it's all like, oh, I ask myself, how much more can I take? How much more can I take? And the reality is the more you do this, you'll start to get to a point where you can take it honestly 1 day at a time. A lot of people don't, like, they say it, but I don't think they actually do it, because I've been a coach for over 4 years now to entrepreneurs and business owners, and over 12 years to Marines. And taking it 1 day at a time sounds good and it sounds cliche, but very few people do it. Very few people actually embrace the fullness of 24 hours, consciously aware of each moment in that day, maximizing it for efficiency and growth. Instead, most people mindlessly, they pacify themselves. They look for ways to self-soothe. So when the pain hits, they'll like eat. How many snackers do you know? When they're like bored, they don't find a way to get back focused. They don't find a way to lock back in. They cut the TV on, something to entertain and stimulate. And then, like, let's say they're tired. They don't get up and like do some jumping jacks. They take a nap. So it's like, they're not actually conscious every step of the day. So they're not really taking it 1 day at a time. But what I've learned is that when you really can, and this takes time in my experience, take it 1 day at a time, when you can consciously be present for 24 hours and you can hold that consciousness and that awareness and you can execute with intention, you can last longer. And that's really what it comes down to when you're in the stretch. Like, when you're in the stretch, it's like, if every day feels like death, all you can do is stay in the valley and know that one conscious, intentional, deliberate day at a time, without compromising my convictions, and my integrity. That's how I do it. Now, that's just food for thought because everybody's going to be in this stage at some point, in the stage of I've made the biggest investment in my life and I don't know where the money's coming from. Been there, done that stage. I have a team and I have no idea how to employ them. That's another stage. Another stage is I've made my first sale. I have no idea how to make the next one. That's another stage. I've got reoccurring revenue. I have no idea how to double this revenue. That's another stage. My relationship is strained because I'm so focused on my business that I'm not able to give enough to the people that I care about. That's another stage. And as you get better, you'll start to incorporate them back in. But most people strain those relationships so hard that they just tap out before they reconnect. And it's like all of those are stages. And when you get into those stages, one of the best things you can do is be conscious for 24 hours. That's it. Get through the day.
One of my coaches says it like this. He says, just be where your feet are. Just try to be where your feet are. So if you're with your family, just be with your family. If you're at work, just be at work. Like if you're writing, or if you're like right now, if you're on this podcast, just literally just be on the podcast. Don't be on the podcast and then you're doing something else, or you're trying to multitask and all that. Just sort of be where your feet are, because at the end of the day, Bobby, when I really think of it, do the challenges get any less? No, they don't. But I think we react better because we have more emotional intelligence and because we are more present. I actually get more done when I'm present. Like if I'm laser focused on one particular task at a time, I get more done. And I get it done a lot faster. It's less stressful. So you just have to literally just be where your feet are. If you're at home, if you have a partner, husband, wife, if you're with your husband and your wife, just be with them. If you're with your parents, be with them. If you're with your kids, be with them. When you're at work, don't be on your phone. How many of us do this, right? So when we're at work, we're thinking about home. When we're at home, we're thinking about work. All right. So it's one of those silly things that we do. Okay. When you're supposed to be working, I know some people, and I've been guilty of this, but now I'm a lot better at it. Like I'm not perfect. I'm just like everybody else. Sometimes you're working, you say, okay, let me check this on Facebook very quickly, or let me go to Twitter or whatever, and you get lost in Facebook posts and Instagram posts and Twitter feed and news articles and all kinds of stuff. You look at yourself, you lift up your head, it's like 20 minutes have passed when it was literally supposed to be 1 minute, 60 seconds. So, just being where your feet are and being present is the key, I think.
Yeah.
And understanding that it's literally never as bad. Most of the time, it's not as bad as you think. Most of the time, it's literally just you just making the situation out to be a lot worse than it actually is. Whereas if you take some time to think and express emotional intelligence and make a clear decision, from a clear and level head, then you normally come out on top. And that's sort of how I look at it. I just tell myself, if it's not life threatening to me or somebody else, it's just not that serious. It's not that serious. If it's not life threatening, it's not that serious. So I don't make it a problem. I do what I can to attack it and to move as quickly as possible, but you know, I don't make it a problem. And Joel used to say something. Mr. Swift used to say, he's always calm and he says what he wants, because you know what? Nobody in this room is gonna get up and attack me.
Right.
You're not gonna attack me. So that being said, guys, if you're not in danger or anything like that, like don't make it an issue. It's not as bad as you think. There's always time to think, to calculate, to move, to do what you need to do, to adjust expectations, etc., etc. You always have time. You have more time than you think. And as you gain more experience and as you literally see the quote unquote lady in the red dress several times, and you start to recognize that, you understand that it's not as bad as you think, and you could express emotional intelligence and just do what you need to do. Like play the best cards based on the hand that you have. And that's literally all you can do.
I
All right.
agree.
So with that being said, Bobby, we're at the top of the hour. Closing remarks. What is something that you'd like to say to the audience before we sort of sign off?
I don't have a very eloquent way to say this, so I'm just going to say it, right? Everything is super serious until it's not. That's not like a super elegant thing. It's not very, hey, write this down on a book, but it's the honest truth. Like when you first get started, you're going to feel like every post needs to go out. Like it really, it is what it is. When you first get started, you're going to feel like you need to be on everybody's DM at every party, at every get together, at every this, that, and the third. And it's just like, yeah, sure, it could help, but does it really hurt? And I think one of the biggest mistakes is thinking that things are a priority that aren't, and then not prioritizing the things that are. So as my closing remarks, I would just say everything is serious until it's not that serious. And the best way to figure out what's not that serious is to be around people that have been there and done that. It's like, we'll tell you like, hey, you're okay. You're okay.
Yeah, for me, I'm just going to say that, I'm going to paraphrase. A wise person learns from their mistake and the mistakes of others, but the wisest people learn from their mistakes, the mistakes of others, and also their successes. So document your mistakes, but also document your successes so you could avoid the bad actions and repeat the successful actions. And that's all from me. So have a phenomenal day, guys. We will see you. We will be back tomorrow, simply same time. This has been Breakfast with a Brand. Let's grow.